Hello and welcome everybody to Tobis Tech Bites, your regular tech snack for .NET, the front end, the back end, and everything. Today I want to show you how to handle QR codes in Blazor because I fiddled around with it a bit in a private pet project throughout the holidays. So I'm going to show you what I found out, and maybe this is of help for someone of you, or spare yourself some time when avoiding problems and errors I already encountered. So what are we going to build today? It's just a very simple Blazor starter application. As you can see, it's going to show my front end skills to the fullest. So what we can do here is we can say, hello, Tobis Tech Bites, and we click to generate. And as we can see, there is a nice QR code generated. If I'm going to increase the amount of data, we can see that the QR code itself is going to grow as well. And if we click clear, it's going to disappear. And this is basically it. This is what we want to achieve today. So let's see how we can do this. Okay, for starters, of course, we are going to need a QR code library for JavaScript. There are a lot of them around. I decided to use QArius from Neocotic. It's on GitHub. As you can see, I'm going to leave the link in the description below. So I decided to download this in the production version and not using the CDN because I wanted to be independent of a CDN in my own application. So I was just copying this over into my Blazor solution into the JS folder. Here is the QArius min.js, and then I added a custom JavaScript file where I put some helper logic to handle all the QArius stuff. In the index HTML, you have to load both scripts. Then, of course, for sure, there are smarter ways to handle packages, JavaScript packages in Blazor, but this is due to a different video. In this case, I just wanted to keep it simple. And yeah, this is the easiest and fastest way to kick the tires. So this is it, what we got to do on the JavaScript side. Let's first see how we can handle QArius on the client side, on the JavaScript side. I just added an object QR generator to the window, and in here I'm going to put some helper functions that help me initialize QArius and generate and clear a QR code. Okay, so let's start with initializing QArius. We are adding a function called initialize QR code that is going to take the name of a container element that's going to host the QR code, which needs to be a canvas in case of QArius. So we are going to grab this container element, and then we say if it is not null, so if it is already included in the DOM, and the QR code itself, the global variable that we use to store the QArius instance, is undefined. We are going to set QR code to new QArius, and QArius itself accepts an options object in the constructor where we can put the container element in, and we can, for example, define the size of the QR code, which is 300 times 300 in this case. And this suffices to initialize QArius. And then in case we want to be able to generate an actual QR code, we can do this by simply passing the data as an object in this case, and we're going to just stringify the data, and then we call QR code.set. So QArius has a set method where we again can pass an options object that has basically the same shape as the one in the constructor. And this time we were going to set the value property to the JSON data that we just created ourselves. And as you might probably guess, clearing the QR code just means to set the value of the QR code to an empty string. And this is all we need on the JavaScript side in order to make QArieus work. The rest is going to happen on the page itself. As we're going to call JavaScript functions, what we're going to need is the Blazor way to call into JavaScript into the browser. And this is done by injecting the so-called IJS runtime. And we just call this JS as JavaScript. And this object can be used to call JavaScript methods from our server code. So here we do have welcome to Tobis Tech Bites. Please enter a text below, and we're going to add a little bit of a UI, namely a label for telling the user what we expect from him, and an input that we bind to a text variable, and then two buttons for generating and clearing the QR code. So let's make this happen by just adding a private string named text, which starts with a string.empty pre-initialized. And we're going to generate async event handlers for our two buttons here. And we're just going to add the async keyword because we're going to need it anyway pretty soon. So this is the async stuff. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to invoke our two helper methods that we created in the JavaScript by saying javascript.invoke async generate QR code, which is almost correct. The one thing is we added this to a QR generator object on the window to not pollute the window scope more than necessary. So we can say generate QR code, and we're going to pass the text down the line that was entered into the text box. And on the clear QR code, it's going to look almost the same. The one difference is that we're not calling generate QR code, but clear QR code. And of course, we don't need to pass the text to the clear method. And this is basically it. The one thing that is missing is that we need to initialize the QR code on the first render of the application. So we're going to override the on after render method with the bool first render. And on the first render, we are going to call QA generator and then initialize QR code, and we're going to pass the name of the QR code element, which is going to be QR code. And of course, we need an element for the QR code in order to pass this. And this is going to be a canvas in case of QArieus, and we just give it the ID of QR code, just corresponding to what we have here. And this is basically all it takes. So we can just run the application and see if everything is working. Okay, here it goes. So we can say, hello, Tobis Tech Bites world. And we click to generate, and we see that the barcode generates. And we can as well create a very long barcode. And as we can see, the data density increases, and the barcode shows the actual content. Should you scan it with your handy, I swear it's not a QR code bait. So you would see that it contains the string Tobis Tech Bites multiple times. So we can clear it, and we're going to fall back to this string.empty QR code. So obviously string.empty has a representation as a QR code. Should you scan this, you would actually really see that this is nothing at all. Okay, so this is working. Basically, as expected, what's not so elegant about this is that we see the empty QR code all the time, right? So should we click clear? I mean, at first we should basically clear the text, and we just want to hide the QR code, and we only want to show the QR code once any text is entered. And the first thing that came into my mind on how to achieve this was like with an if and then string dot not string dot is null or empty text. Then it's not the text that we wish to show, but in this case we want to show the canvas and if the text is empty behind the canvas. Okay, so here is where my problems began, because then this code won't work any longer, because on the first render the text is null or empty. So Blazor is not going to render this canvas, meaning that it is not even included into the DOM. Okay, so our initialized QR code won't find it, and on subsequent renders we don't initialize. Then I changed this to not initialize only on the first render, but on every render, and then I got every kind of a weird behavior, like, I don't know, the QR code didn't update, I got errors and all weird kind of stuff. So I decided that this might not be the way to go, and I decided to solve this using CSS, just by hiding the element with a display none in case the text is empty, and otherwise showing it. And what I came up with a little help of my copilot, of course, was this code. We say if the string is null or empty text, then we add a class called hidden. Otherwise, we don't add any class. And for sure, we have to define this hidden class and say that it does just simply mean display none. And the other thing we need to do, despite applying the hidden class to hide and show the QR code, is to actually clear the text once we clear the QR code in order to really make the QR code disappear. So now let's check if this is working. Okay, here comes the browser. So let's check. And as we can see, there is no QR code right from the start, and we say hello world here and say generate, and as we can see, the QR code is generating, and we can as well generate a longer text in it, and we can clear it. The text is going to go away and the QR code as well, and hello again is going to regenerate the QR code and again show it to us. So everything works as expected now, and this is it for today. This is what I wanted to show you. I hope it was interesting, and I hope it may help some of you. So hope to see you again next time. Thank you and bye bye.